Welcome back to the Behind the Well show. Roger Abel back in studio with Elias Randall. Elias, how you doing today?
Good, Roger. Happy to be doing another show. Should be a good one. And
I feel like our intro needs improvement compared to our radio show. I get introduced as the Big Kahuna, and you're introduced as the new sheriff in town.
Yeah, I mean the podcast, it's different than the radio show because on the radio show we have a host, and that's his job is to get it exciting.
We don't have the buttons and the sounds and all that stuff to like hit the horn and do all the fun stuff. But
no, we don't. But we have us.
Hey guys, keep tuning in. Oh, hey, I got a quick question for you.
Sure.
In the world, do you have any idea where U.S. ranks from a retirement system standpoint?
When you say retirement system,
so I'll back up.
What do you mean?
Mercer CFA Institute for Global Pension Index ranks out of 48 different countries where each country stands from a retirement standpoint for their people.
Yeah.
So out of 48 countries, where do you think the U.S. landed?
I would imagine probably not at the top. If we're talking pensions and stuff like that, I know there's
total system, everything. So, like U.S., we have really a three-legged system.
Correct.
Right? We have Social Security, your personal savings, and maybe a pension.
Right.
Where
Correct.
A lot of countries are straight pension. So that
said,
so
I think I know that there's other countries that the pensions are better as far as the benefits that they provide. So depending on how you weight personal savings versus pension and kind of public pensions or Social Security and stuff like that, I don't think the U.S. would rank towards the top. Our system is really transition.
Out of 48, throw me a number.
15.
29. 20.
I mean, I figured we would have been probably in the top quarter, but okay, kind of half.
No, we're half. And that doesn't surprise me. Mostly because our system has transitioned so much to self-funding your retirement. I mean, when you have a pension, you're self-funding it. You're just forced to do it. You can't mess it up.
Right. And some of the unlike pension, it's optional.
Yeah, 401k is optional.
Like if you're in a country where there's a pension system provided, you don't really opt in. Where 401k and personal savings, you have to make it a priority for yourself.
Well, the thing with a pension, if you think about those with pensions, they don't have the opportunity, and this is cited in the article, to have 401k leakage. Meaning, hey, I want to take money out of my account before I retire. There's no limitations on how much you can take out. You can take it all. You don't have to contribute. So there's just a lot more factors that go into messing up a self-directed account versus a pension. Now, another thing the article mentioned, which is also potentially a reason, I think this is true, not every employee has access to a workplace retirement plan. There's a lot of small businesses out there that don't have a retirement plan for their employees.
That is true, and we have clients that will come to us, and that's the main reason. Well, my company doesn't offer a plan, so I need to start doing something outside of that.
Okay, and then let's think about it. Your company doesn't offer a plan. How much is an individual able to save in a tax-favored environment each year if they don't have a 401k?
Well, if you're less than 50, $7,000, and if you're older than 50, $8,000.
That's it.
Yeah, so there's a lot more limitation.
One of the things that maybe we can do to fix this is increase these IRA limits. I mean, why? Just if someone wants to contribute, let them contribute more. Why are we handcuffing it?
That's a good question.
Like, we'll let them either tax defer $30,000 if they're over 50 in a 401k or a Roth, but if they're not offered that, we don't. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, so, it wouldn't be. I suppose if you did that, though, that might incentivize companies to probably not eliminate it because it's still a good benefit. I suppose it would be nice for employees of places that don't offer anything. Maybe they have a path to higher limits. I could see that making sense for a lot of people.
Well, you just put, hey, the maximum tax favored amount you can put into all plans combined is X.
Like an aggregate amount.
Yeah. Like you could put in you can get 69,000 into a 401k between employer contributions, profit sharing after tax, and employee contributions.
Right.
So that person then can do another 7,000 or 8,000 in an IRA. Well, okay, make the aggregate limit 80 grand and call it good. Like, this is the most you can put into a tax favored place. Doesn't matter what type or where. Doesn't it just make it easier?
It would, but this is America. We don't always do simple. So
That's right. I'll give everybody, all the listeners, the number one place. Netherlands was ranked number one, followed by Iceland, Denmark, Israel. They all received an A grade. Singapore, Australia, Finland, and Norway got a B+. I would like to go compare their taxes and see what the benefit was, right? Like those places, I'm sure Iceland, Denmark, they have a high tax rate. It's the only way you can fund
the public
pension like they do.
Right. And I would speculate that I think if this were a ranking of opportunity to create wealth, I think there would be a different result. I don't know how the United States would rank behind anyone in opportunity to create wealth for your family.
No question. Opportunity is the United States is the world of opportunity. You're right. You have the opportunity here to vastly outperform or do better than any pension out there if you put a little bit of effort and due diligence into it and a little bit of just restraint.
Right. So other places, it's probably a more the potential outcomes probably more fair for people across the board, but the potential opportunity is not as great.
I'd like to know what in these countries how much of their pension how much of their pay goes towards that pension. But as we know, we've seen situations in this office where there are times that there are certain individuals and families that don't maybe have what we would call a great relationship with money that would have been much better served by having a pension that they couldn't outlive the income versus a big lump sum of money that they could make a massive mistake with.
And that is true. We've seen people spend through a couple $1 million and then it's gone. And with a pension, you're never going to outlive the income from the pension. So there is a very good argument that can be made for people that tend to not get their spending under control, that they probably would be better off with a pension. Because if they're going to spend it all with the pension income, you spend it all 1 month at a time. You got that big IRA sitting out there, you could spend it all in 3 or 4 years. No matter how good of a saver you were while you were working, you still have the risk of you're taking too much money out. You're just buying too much stuff, and your money's not able to keep up.
One thing about that, though, I don't think that's the system's fault.
I don't either.
That's a individual's fault that they can't rein in their spending.
Right. You're not controlling. Right. You're not controlling one of the variables. Your sphere of control includes spending, and
why
you're not doing that.
Why to be considered a successful retirement system, do you have to force somebody to withhold X amount of their paycheck and then let some other entity manage it, i.e. the government manage it?
Well,
like why is that what it takes to be considered a good retirement system? Because as you said, in America, think about when you have the ability to direct where your money goes. You get to choose how it's taxed in the future. Do you think when you contribute to a pension, you get to choose how it's taxed? No, it's income tax. I just looked up. Some of this is taxed at 15 to 20%, some of the pensions in other countries.
Right. And your taxes while you're working funded the pension.
Right.
And then I'm sure you tax it. I'm sure those aren't.
So
tax-free payments that you get.
No, they're all taxed. Like Denmark's 15.3% on the pension income.
Yeah, so your taxes funded it, and then your taxes continue to fund it.
And just so people know, if you think 15.3 is low, very few people in America are in a 15.3% effective tax rate. You might be in a 15% tax bracket, but you don't have a 15% effective rate.
True statement.
For example, if you make $160,000 and you have 2 kids, your effective rate's probably about 10%.
Right.
Like you're not paying 15.
What at that point you're probably
you're
in the 22% bracket, but your effective rate's
10.
About 10.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think, and then when you get to choose where it goes, you can pick whether you're going to do Roth. You can pick, am I going to do non-retirement? You have the choice to go fund this how you want to fund it. And I don't think people also realize if you wanted to create your own pension, everybody in America has the opportunity to create their own pension if they want to.
Through an insurance, through an annuity product, through an insurance company or something like that.
All a pension is a different name for an annuity. You could go out there and buy a single premium immediate annuity, give them the money, and they give you a lifetime income stream for life, just like that pension did. Or you can use a contract that accumulates and annuitize it and take guaranteed income. Everybody in America can have a pension. So that's where I struggle when they say, hey, the system isn't as good as others. I don't think we're the best, but I don't think we're in the bottom quartile. We're probably in the bottom quartile of managing money is really what it is.
Yes. If more people, truth be told, more people participated and had good financial behavior, our system could be great. And there's actually, I think it has the opportunity to be really wonderful for people. And some of these public pensions, I know there's more and more countries starting to adopt a system more similar to America. So I think there's kind of this, I don't think it's one way or the other. And will pensions maybe come back to our workplace? We've had a show previously where some larger companies in the country are considering bringing a pension back. Probably never going to be like the pensions of the 80s, right? Where you could just get this Cadillac payment for the rest of your life. Like, why did all those pensions become insolvent?
Well, that's simple. Because in the 80s, we had interest rates that were 10, 12, 14%, and those made sense. Then you go 2 decades at 0, that blows that whole system up. We're starting at a different point today. If you think about it, we are starting at a different interest rate environment than those pensions in the 70s and 80s.
Right. Then that's what I'm getting at. And will we ever be in an interest rate environment to offer pensions that are that good? Probably not. Most likely not. But could there, if more companies start to offer, I don't think 401k is going anywhere in the ability to save for yourself, but there probably is an argument to be made that a combination of those two things would be good for people, especially Americans are the greatest consumers in the world. Like we don't have, the issue here is not spending money, right? We all know we're really good at the spending part. The issue here is the savings. Just the facts are not that many people are great savers and exhibit great financial behavior.
Well, I think the reason the pension provides more stability is it's not optional. If we made 401ks not optional, right? Like you don't have the option to not contribute, and we don't give people the ability to take money out before 59 and a half. Would never be it. You built your own pension. Right. After you turn 59 and a half, great. You want to mess it up, go for it. But all you have to do is say, hey, look, and Secure Act 2.0 actually expanded the opportunity for people to get enrolled. It made more part-time workers eligible to participate in the 401k. It raised the threshold for cashing out balances. There used to be a minimum. If you were under that, then the employer would just, the TPA would just send the money and cash it out. Increase that threshold. But what if from the day you worked, just like having a pension, 4% of your paycheck automatically goes to the 401k? It's not optional.
It would probably work out.
It would work out perfect. And everybody would actually be better off. But we're the land of the free, and we should be. But most people would be better off having their own money forced to invest versus giving it to a pension. Once you had a pension, you had all these other layers of costs and fees. Someone's got to manage the pension. Someone's got to manage the funds. There's got to be a pension company that does it.
Yeah. And there's typically no opportunity for any sort of legacy planning within a pension. And that's not the most important thing to people. But
for a lot of people, it is.
Right. The opportunity to pass on wealth to the next generation for successful investors, it's not everything to them, but it is an important part of what they're doing and what we're helping them do. Right. Where pension, there's typically a survivor benefit for a spouse. And then after that, whatever that asset was worth, that does not stay with the family. So there is an aspect of you don't have control of that asset.
I actually think it comes down to control, because when you have a pension, one of the issues is, one, does it have a cost of living adjustment? And two, who controls it? Right? Like, think about it. If you look at state of Iowa IPERS pensions, there's no cost of living adjustment. Once you take it, it is what it is, never going up, right? Social Security, you get a cost of living adjustment, but who determines it?
The government.
And here's the other thing, is it determined by where you live or determined by what the CPI was for the entire United States? And then you have to ask yourself, is that an accurate reflection of what the cost of living is where you live?
Could be.
Maybe. And here's what got me thinking about it. Half of retirees, this just hit MSN here one day ago, half of retirees are considering returning to work after the most recent cost of living adjustment from Social Security. Because, we had an 8.9% a year or two ago. This one's 2.5%. I hate to tell you, in the real world, it's more than 2.5% more inflation. It is. Go look at your insurance bill. Go look at the taxes on your house. I just got my health insurance premium. That was up 10% for my family.
Right.
Let's just get real about it. And the fact that people are having, and guess who controls how much they get? The government. If you save your own money, you can control your cost of living adjustments by your asset allocation. No one else is controlling but you.
Right. Right. And I think the half of the people, they were considering going back to work before the next cost of living adjustment came out. I mean, those half were already thinking about it because they've only ever gotten, if you've been on Social Security for more than just a couple years, you've only gotten the one big bump because inflation, right? Because inflation was at 9. Yeah, but it's typically not that
I don't think it's been an issue until now because inflation's rapidly outpaced whatever raise they got. Okay, let's break this down.
So you think it brought more people into that?
People into that? Yeah, for sure. Think about, so let's say the average Social Security check's $2,200, okay? And for that person, their grocery bill, they used to be pre-COVID. They go pre-COVID for two people. I almost guarantee you could have went to the grocery store for $100 a week. Got healthy stuff. That bill now, that's over $200. It's double. Because I do all the grocery shopping. It's double. Go find something for less than $2.99 or $3.99. Okay, so as a percentage of your check, you're getting $2,200. Great, you got a 10% raise. You went to $2,400, but your grocery bill went from $400 to $800. You're still behind. Then this year, your insurance just went up a third. Well, insurance on a house, let's say your insurance is $2,000. Oh, a year. Well, that went up $750. Your taxes went up because of valuation on your place. Your taxes went up by a third. All those things, because they're bigger, like cost items, vastly outpace that 10% increase you got in your $2,200 check. Because I feel like the inflation has come on things that cost a lot more money.
Yeah, and there are things you can't cut out either. And that's the painful part, right? Like you can't stop buying groceries. You can't stop having insurance.
What if you're in Florida right now? What if you're retiring in Florida? You're in one of these condos that they're having to make sure are all up to code after that one collapsed in Miami. And your HOAs are $3,000 or $4,000 a month. Go on Zillow and check it out. HOAs that are $3,000 a month.
That exists?
That exists.
Ouch.
Because they're making up for all the past years when there wasn't any deferred maintenance done. They have to rebuild all these reserves and bring these buildings up to code. Well, do you think that your
problem?
Well, just think if your HOA. So I've got a condo. The HOAs used to be $1,500 a quarter. Now they're $3,500. So
every quarter, so it went up $8,000 a year.
Yeah. But think about that. So you're retired, living in this place you bought for a couple $100,000 in 2007. Thought your HOA fee was going to be $350 a month. Now it's $1,100. Social Security didn't go up $1,100. So I see how there's more people coming into that because I think inflation has happened on bigger items that actually takes more out of somebody's paycheck.
It does. Well, hey, here's the good news. We have an election coming up, so we can get all these problems solved depending on who wins, right? We're going to get all these problems solved here on what's voting. Is it the 5th or 6th?
November 5th. I'm actually going to go over hunting to Western Iowa, and but I'm coming home on the 5th to vote and to watch the festivities with my wife to make sure the right person wins. I don't know who
to
that
make
is.
sure the right person.
It doesn't matter. You know what? It's going to be the right person to half the people and the wrong person to the other half. It is what it is.
Yeah, it is. And as that approaches, with the election, and that is on investors' minds, right? Like that's the number one question. How long has that been our number one question? All year?
No, I won't say all year, but definitely in the last 45 to 60 days.
It's picked up.
Yes.
It was trickling in. And now it's definitely number one question.
I would say since Biden dropped out of the race and Harris jumped in, it has become the number one question. I think mostly because the supporters of the Republican Party felt like they were fairly confident that Trump was going to win. I think a lot of people were too. But now that there's a viable candidate in there, it's not really that known. So now people are like, oh man, we went from this world where we kind of thought we knew what was going to happen to like, we have no idea. So now they're concerned about it.
Right. And for investors, kind of as we get to the final phase of the race in the election, I think there's a couple things to consider and think about. Which one, and it's a tough pill to swallow, I think, for people because, right, we all want to assess blame and assess credit for things. In general, whoever the president is going to get too much credit or too much blame for the stock market and the overall economy. And that's something we talk with people about all the time. I think to shed light on some of the good news of the situation, regardless of the outcome, once we know who won, that brings more certainty to the overall environment. And what do we know about especially equity investors, right? More certainty is better, right? The stock market tends to do better with more certainty. And whether we have, and even if we remain in a split government, that's not necessarily the worst thing. Because it's harder to get things done and make changes, and the market tends to like that, right? Instead of so much speculation, it's easier to say, well, if we have a divided government, it's going to be hard to make changes.
It's checks and balances.
Correct.
But even if it's not a divided government, even if one party has everything, we've watched the last couple of times that's happened, there's still dissent, and it's not as easy to get done what you think you want to get done. There's people in the party that will dissent, so it's still hard to make changes.
It is, and regardless of who takes office, taking office just from a timing perspective, right? We talk about market timing on our program. From a timing aspect, when you take office at the top, right? Most likely the market's going to be trading near all-time highs at this time.
Well, typically we're always going up, so someone's usually getting an all-time high unless they happen to just take over, like Obama took over right after the great financial crisis.
Right. So from a timing perspective, if you take office, a market that just went down 40 or 50%, the odds are you're going to have really nice looking market returns for your presidency. If you take it when market's trading at all-time highs, could you still have a good market performance over your term? You could, but the odds that won't look so great are better because of the starting point.
So let me ask you a question. How long do you think it takes for policy to have an effect on the economy and the stock market? Is it
there's
2 months, 12 months, 10 years?
Some
of it's decades.
Yeah, 0 to however long it needs.
Right.
Because all that everything is related. But even if taxes went up on corporations and now they're a little bit less profitable, it's going to take time to work through the system. They're going to figure out how to pass on those costs to consumers. That's hard to define. How long does it take? It takes longer than probably what people think.
Elias, those are good points. And I think it'd be great if people really thought about how long it really does take for that policy to change. And I think that's why we believe, and I think I believe the data shows us too. It's why when there's a new president, the new president has less to do immediately with the direct outcome of the stock market, because you've got policy that was made in the early 2000s. You've got policy that was made by Obama, policy made by Trump and Biden. We still feel the effects of all of that today. And that's why it's very hard to cumulatively say, well, this person's in and they did X. It's not true. It's a cumulative effect of all of the policy that's went into this over the last 2 decades is determining what's happening in our economy and in the stock market and all these different things.
Well, the economy and the profit cycles of the businesses, that's really what matters. And regardless of emotions and how it makes people feel, presidential stock market returns are very random compared to business cycles, profit cycles, and the overall economy.
I have to tell you something that is literally on my screen right now. I should show it to the camera. But PNC Private Bank put out this ad. Boring turns long-term advice into long-term wealth.
Boring?
Yeah, boring turns long-term advice into long-term wealth. And it's true.
I've been called boring on this program before.
Actually, we have listeners that said Elias is a little boring.
I'm okay with that.
But guess what that turns into? Long-term wealth. That was just an ad, but it's true.
It must work for our clients.
What have we told people for a long time? If your investment plan and your investments are super exciting, I'm not sure that's always the optimal outcome.
No.
Let's talk about how boring. So I was teaching that passport to retirement class for one of the local hospitals. And I think there's a chart in there that over the last 30 years, the S&P 500 has averaged 10.15%. And I think if you polled most people and said, hey, if you could average 10% a year, would you be happy? And most people would be, yeah, I would. Do you know what that means? All you really needed to do is just make a deposit 30 years ago, keep making deposits, never look at a statement, never do anything. Just boring. So boring.
Well, but it's the volatility. It's kind of the ride. It's the ride that people can't.
The volatility only matters if you're checking this stuff. You're trying to interact with it.
True.
Okay, let's remember our earlier conversation about pensions. Why do pensions work? For people from a mental aspect.
Yeah, you don't
they
see
don't
the
give you a value of your pension.
Yeah, you don't see the value of your money in it is not mark to market every day. You can't log in and see it. You're never going to see any fluctuations, which in pensions are managed differently, but it's still.
Could you imagine
they're
if
still
we did
managed
that?
with investments?
They're 100% their investments. There's times where that pension is worth 15 or 20% less. than it was the year before. They
you
just
can't
don't
log
show
in
it to
yeah,
you.
you can't log in and see it, or
Right.
click a button and make a poor decision as an investor.
Well, you don't really know the value of it. You don't know what
Yeah,
Someone
all
go
they
tell me
really
what
show
they're paying
you
in
is your
fees.
future monthly income.
what are the fees to be in this pension? Like none of that.
No one knows.
No one knows. But I think that's really, it's just ironic that I'm sitting here looking at this article and right on my screen comes up the advertisement. Boring turns long-term advice into long-term wealth. It's 100% true. I think if most people understood that, not paying attention, hiring an advisor, getting a financial plan done, and paying less attention to this would make them better.
Well, and a lot of our most successful clients, they pay attention. Everyone pays attention to their money. What they don't do is make emotional decisions. And you know what they're spending their time doing? They're spending their time traveling with friends and family. They're spending their time spoiling their grandkids. They're focused on their life because they've delegated to us the money part, and that's totally fine to do. And regardless of what happens, right? In the bear market, did we have strategies and solutions? Yeah, that's our job to provide those. During inflation and lowering interest rates or rising interest rates and now lowering interest rates, and we're going to have an election. And then after the election, the wrong person's going to win to half of the people, and we're still going to have strategies moving forward, right? So it's just kind of, and it's easy to get trapped in the doom and gloom, and especially now I love YouTube, right? To me, YouTube's been one of the greatest things ever invented. You can go on YouTube and learn anything now, which is awesome. Like for me, one of my hobbies is I like to barbecue. Well, how do you think I learned how to barbecue? I just went on YouTube and watched hours and hours of videos. But there's also this rabbit hole aspect of YouTube where like a lot of this stuff that's being talked about, if our money becomes worthless, companies are going out of business. Like we're talking about a life so miserable. There's no wealth to be, like there's nothing at that point. So what is it like? What good is anything? What good is any asset going to be if there's no tools to have wealth in society?
You have all the cash in the world, it won't matter.
Yeah, you could have $100 billion stored away in a safe at your home, and if everything goes to crap, like what's that going to do for you?
So I gotta tell you a good one. Well, this was when we were filming the TV show Monday in here, or not TV show, but the radio show. Remember, I got a call from a friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, "Hey, I just need to verify the end of the world isn't like in 2 days, right? Like the stock market's not going to like crash." I'm like, "Well, I don't know what's going to happen, but it's pretty likely that, you don't need to make preparations for this massive meltdown in 2 days." So I had lunch with him. And he said, "Yeah, I've got this one friend that's convinced like the 24th or 25th or 26th, like massive crash. It's all coming to an end."
How do they have this date? How did you get this date?
Well, he goes, so he's calling to make sure I was prepared. I go, "Well, yeah, let's talk about how we prepared. We got 3 years worth of your spending sitting in cash. Like you're prepared in your account from a cash standpoint that if the market were to go down 20% in a day, you wouldn't have to sell anything to keep living, right?" And that's why I said, "How does he know?" Well, he's been watching all this stuff on YouTube. Apparently invited this friend to go somewhere. He's like, "I don't think we can go. I'm not sure we'll make it back." Like they went down the rabbit hole.
Where are they going? To the moon? Like where are they
No,
traveling?
they're going to like a different
back?
state to go to this event. He's like, "I'm not sure we'll make it back." But what's happened is YouTube has taken this individual down the rabbit hole. So convinced that there's this massive global meltdown going to happen on this specific date that they're literally living in this massive protectionism mode. And there's actually people probably been living this way for years. Because if you go to YouTube, here's what happens. Or any social media, it just keeps giving you more of the same information. It's just,
And
oh,
who
I
knows-
watched I watched this on Conspiracy of the World Coming to an End, so I'm gonna the next video and the next video and the next video, and pretty soon you start to believe that's what's actually going to happen because you don't get any of the other information. And I think going into this election, the number one most important thing people can do is figure out where you are consuming your information.
Media filter.
Media filter, 100% of the time. You need to have a media filter.
You know how many people, especially the last, call it 5 years, I've heard the comment, I just stopped watching the news and I'm happier now. A lot of people have shared that with me, that because the news has become so sensational and negative that I've heard so many people go, I stopped watching because I'm happier when I just don't know all the bogus stuff that they're talking about.
I don't watch the news. I read the news. Like, I'll read articles. The only news channel I consume is CNBC. And it's because I feel like I can get good financial information out there. Otherwise,
Right.
we had this talk before the show about just how demographics of people are shifting. There was a time where I fired up DirecTV and got my 580 channels and hit guide and sorted through it. I was going to go watch. And now I don't have DirecTV. I have Hulu or YouTube. I use YouTube TV now more than Hulu. Well, the only thing I go to YouTube TV for is the Sunday Ticket, NFL or sports,
Yeah.
Caitlin Clark, whatever. I'm going to go watch that. Otherwise, I spend all of my time on Netflix or YouTube. And there's no news on YouTube unless it's self-created, right? You can see news clips if you want to, but you can kind of avoid it. And I am always clicking on hunting or fishing or boating. So most of my YouTube feed is filled with fast boats, white-tailed deer, and fishing videos. That's what I consume.
Mine is filled with football reffing videos, barbecue videos, and the music I like. I do like YouTube's music algorithm.
I've never done that.
I like it. I don't know what's different about theirs than I used to do the Pandora, and I'll still turn that on sometimes, but YouTube, depending on which video I start with, it's just, they just know what type of mood I'm in. They keep bringing the songs I like.
So are you, okay, so time out, because I didn't really even know YouTube music was a thing. Are you watching music videos, or is it like...
Yeah, the videos play. I don't watch them, though. I just use it for the
and
music.
Is it like one video, or is it like they give you a playlist? So if I'm listening to Morgan Wallen, I'm going to get like Morgan Wallen and Hardy and a whole... Oh, I like that.
Yeah, and depending on like what you start with, it'll kind of keep you on that path.
Well, I've always tried to figure out how people know all these songs, and I don't know any. Because like I don't listen to radio. I like listening to Morgan Wallen and Hardy and some of these people, but I don't ever get any new songs. And that's probably how people learn about new songs, is through this algorithm on these music stations.
Yeah, and I might not know how to engage with it enough. I do wish there was a little more aspect of, hey, try this one. You'd probably like it based on other stuff you like. But maybe I need to do Spotify or something. I don't know. I've never even tried that. So,
well, sorry I got off topic, but I think for today's show, the takeaway should be, I know people are concerned with this election. Figure out how to have a media filter. Try to go to very trusted sources. If you're watching a video and you don't know who this person is, do they have a license? What are their credentials? What station are they on? Like, for the most part, if you go look at the major news stations like that pump out financial information, they don't let these conspiracy theorists come on the show. I'm sure the people that are saying the world's, and I've seen the videos, I know what videos they're talking about, do this in the next 2 days. If you see a video that says do this in the next 2 days for anything, please understand they are trying to get you to click on it so they can monetize. Like if there's a video that says there's a deadline, they want you to click on it because they want you to be scared so then they can monetize their channel.
If someone put a deadline on the market collapsing or the end of the world, and that deadline comes and goes, you probably shouldn't be watching them
ever
anymore.
Again.
If they gave you a specific date of a market collapse and that date comes and goes and they're wrong, they're not a credible source of information.
Well, here's what I tell you. If someone gives you an exact date, what I believe is happening The only way it could really happen is if they're manipulating the market, and they're going to go to jail if they do that. Nobody knows the exact date that something in the market is going to happen. I don't care who you are.
There's no YouTube influencers that could move the market.
Well, with that said, make sure you have a media filter. If you're concerned about if you're concerned about volatility going into the election, there's really 2 or 3 action items. 1, make sure you have an updated financial plan. 2, make sure you understand your risk capacity, how much risk you should take. And 3, look at strategies that protect volatility. If anybody wants any information on that, you can go to btwellshow.com. You can click the links in the description. We would be happy to help you with that. From the Behind the Well Show, we appreciate you watching. Hopefully you tune in again. I want to thank everybody for listening.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. The opinions voiced in this show are for general information purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial or tax advisor prior to investing. Premier Investments and Wealth Management and LPL Financial do not provide tax advice. Please consult your tax professional. Economic forecasts set forth may not develop as predicted, and there can be no guarantee that strategies promoted will be successful. There's no guarantee that a diversified portfolio will enhance overall returns or outperform a non-diversified portfolio. Diversification does not protect against market risk. Rebalancing a portfolio may cause investors to incur tax liabilities and/or transaction costs, and does not assure profit or protect against loss. All performance referenced is historical and is not a guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and cannot be invested into directly. There is no assurance that the techniques and strategies discussed are suitable for all investors or will yield positive outcomes. The purchase of certain securities may be required to affect some of the strategies. Investing involves risks, including possible loss of principal.